Gather around, my children. Curtis here bringing you another Magic the Gathering commentary produced by Green Carpet Media. Today I'm going to be casting two decks from the Dragon's Maze expansion, the green-red deck Gruul Siege, played by Hoggfard Boom, and the black-white deck Orzhov Power, played by Spoons. Now we've seen Hoggfard before in a previous match between Garrus where he was completely overrun by the intro deck Selesnya Surge. However, this time around he's playing with the powerhouse Gruul Siege, which utilizes the activated ability Blood Rush, so now he'll be attempting to overrun his opponent. In the other corner we have the newcomer Spoons, who will be playing with Orzhov Power. This deck utilizes the activated ability Extort, which drains your opponent's life total and replenishes your own. I like this ability, but it's rather slow and circumstantial. Spoons will need to find a balance between using Extort and playing other spells. He'll most likely use the ability as a mana dump rather than a traditional ability, which is probably the best way to use Extort because you don't want to tap yourself dry when you have other, more effective spells that you could be playing. Now it looks like Hoggfard has won the dice roll and will be opting to play first. Both these players will draw their initial starting hands, and I must note that they're both looking pretty decent. Hoggfard has a good number of lands, a nice 2-drop creature, and the sorcery Ground Assault, which is geared more towards the mid to late game when a player typically has more lands. Spoons' hand has some decent creatures, 3 swamps and 0 spells, which shouldn't be a surprise for this deck. Orzhov Power doesn't have a lot of sorceries or instants. It focuses primarily around its creatures' Extort ability. And it looks like Spoons is going to mulligan for some reason. I don't understand why, his hand wasn't bad at all. Sure, he didn't have a plains, but certainly he took into consideration that there are guild gates and cluestones in this deck which provide both black and white mana. Maybe he's looking for a specific combination of cards, or maybe he's looking for one card in particular. In any case, Spoons' methods are a little strange. He's an unpredictable opponent, and sometimes this can yield positive results. Spoons has drawn his second hand, and it looks worse than his first. He's got a healthy number of lands, but his creatures aren't the best. Don't get me wrong, Sin Collector is a beast, but Spoons needs to see creatures that are 2 and 3 drops with Extort. In any case, Spoons seems satisfied with his hand, and Hoggfard will start us off by playing a forest and passing his turn. I'm pretty sure that Spoons' deck doesn't have any 1-drop, so I won't be seeing much action out of Spoons' first turn. He's going to draw a Smog Elemental and play a Swamp. With nothing left to do, Spoons will pass his turn back over to Hoggfard, who will most likely be looking to get his Crawl Warrior onto the battlefield. He has drawn his deck's holographic card, Ruric Thar, the Embowed, and I hope this game will last long enough to see this card hit the field. This card has so much utility, it's insane. 2 keyword abilities, Vigilance and Reach, and a sexy passive ability. Hoggfard has played a mountain, tapped both his lands, and played his Crawl Warrior as predicted. This card is a 2/2 Insect Warrior creature with an expensive activate ability. Pay 5 colorless mana and 1 green mana to pump the warrior with a +3/+3 until end of turn. Anyway, Spoons drew his Orzhov Guildgate and put it onto the battlefield tapped. This card is a land that can either be tapped for 1 white mana or 1 black mana. He has passed his turn back over to Hoggfard, who has drawn a Guildgate of his own. And of course Hoggfard's Guildgate reflects Spoons, but instead of producing white or black mana, it will produce red or green. Hoggfard will draw First Blood as he swings for 2 with his warrior. This will bring Spoons' life total down to 18, and with nothing else to do, this will end Hoggfard's turn. Now like I said before, Spoons needs to start drawing creatures with Extort. I would like to see Basilica Guards. But instead, Spoons has drawn and played a Plains. He will likely deploy the most logical move, which is getting that Sin Collector onto the battlefield. He's tapping down all his lands and pulling out a Sin Collector as predicted. And like I said before, this card is a beast. It's a mere 2/1 human cleric, but has an outrageous passive ability. When this card enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals their hand, and Spoons will get to choose an instant or sorcery card to exile. So not only does he get to remove a potentially game-changing spell, he gets a peek at Hoggfard's hand. Now Ground Assault is Hoggfard's only sorcery, so this card is obviously getting exiled. Spoons should be a little worried with what he sees in Hoggfard's hands, which is his deck's holographic card Ruric Thar. This card has real potential to be played in 2 or 3 turns, and the question is, does Spoons' deck have anything that can deal with Ruric Thar once it's active on the battlefield? And the answer is yes. He could draw his own holographic card, Teysa Envoy of Ghosts, or the sorcery Assassin Strike, or even 2 Steeple Rocks. The latter probably being his best scenario because Steeple Rock has the keyword ability First Strike, and if Spoons double blocks Hoggfard's Ruric Thar, that would mean a dead Ruric Thar. Spoons has passed his turn back over to Hoggfard, who has drawn and played a forest. Hoggfard doesn't have any additional spells that he can play, but it looks like he might be bluffing a Blood Rush. Well, it looks like he decided not to bluff as he passes his turn back over to Spoons. He doesn't want to risk sacrificing his 2/2 warrior to a mere 2/1, and I think that's a good idea because trading the warrior to the Sin Collector would be a victory for Spoons. Spoons has drawn a plane and played a swamp. He really doesn't have much he can do here aside from attacking or passing his turn. It looks like he's decided to go on the offensive in hopes that Hoggfard will block with his Sin Collector. However, his opponent has plenty of life to spare and will be opting to take the 2 damage opposed to blocking with his warrior. I think Spoons should have held off attacking with Sin Collector. There isn't any reason to squeeze Hoggfard for damage. It would have been more beneficial to deter aggression from Hoggfard for a few more turns, or at least chump block his larger creatures if they were to enter the battlefield. Back over to Hoggfard's side, we see that he has drawn Zertos Swine, and this card couldn't have been drawn at a better time. Spoons has left his front door wide open, and Hoggfard will most likely be capitalizing on this opportunity by utilizing Swine's Blood Rush ability. He has played a forest, bringing his land total to 5. That's 1 land away from being able to bring his holographic Ruric onto the field, and once it's activated, Spoons better hope he can top deck something epic, or else this game is going to be over fast. Hoggfard has tapped down 3 lands and will be using his Swine's Blood Rush, pumping his Crawl Warrior to a hefty 7/6, and this right here, children, is the reason why Spoons shouldn't have attacked with his Sin Collector. You can see while the warrior is beefy 7/6, it doesn't have trample, meaning that Spoons could have simply blocked the 7/6 warrior with his 2/1 Sin Collector and claimed a technical victory this turn. However, what's done is done, and Spoons will have to face the consequences as Hoggfard will go ham with his warrior. Looks like Spoons might be trying to bluff, or he might be contemplating a strategy, but in any case, he can't like what he sees. He has the possibility of playing one half of his split card Loss, giving Hoggfard's creatures -1/-1, but instead, Spoons has opted to take 7 damage, lowering his health to 11. Hoggfard has passed his turn over to Spoons, who has drawn the instant Crypt Incursion, and at this point in the match, this card is essentially an overpriced life gain. Definitely not the game changer Spoons would have liked to have seen. But as bad as Crypt Incur, whoa, it looks like Spoons has passed his turn back over to Hoggfard without playing a land. This has to have been a mistake. There's no reason why he shouldn't have laid down one of his lands. Perhaps the pressure's getting to him, or maybe he already feels like this game is lost. Hoggfard has drawn Ruination Worm and will lay down a forest. He has the 6 mana necessary to play his holographic card this turn, and I will seriously bite my pinky finger off if he doesn't play it. It's the best move Hoggfard has, and will eliminate pretty much any chance Spoons has to get back into this game. Looks like he's tapping down all his lands and will be placing Rook onto the battlefield. This card is so beast mode. Not only is it a 6/6, but it has the keyword abilities Vigilance and Reach. But wait, that's not all. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, Rook will deal 6 damage to that player. Now keep in mind that this effect also applies to its owner, so not even Hoggfard is exempted from Rook's madness. Back over to Spoons' side, he has drawn a Plains, probably not the card he was looking for. He needed to top deck something with a little more stopping power, but I must note that he should have played the Crypt Incursion when Hoggfard's Rook was still on the stack. He did manage to play a land this turn, basically his only legitimate move, and with that he'll pass the game back over to Hoggfard, who has drawn the enchantment Gruul Warchant. This is a perfect card to play this turn, but keep in mind that since Gruul Warchant is a non-creature card, it will deal 6 damage to the player. Is it worth it? You bet it's worth it, and Hoggfard most certainly knows this. He has so much momentum and a huge life pool to spare that the repercussions for playing the Warchant are outweighed by the benefits. He's going to trade 6 life going down to 12, but deal at least 10 damage to Spoons. Looking closer at Spoons' hand, we'll see that he has absolutely nothing to stop this oncoming rampage. He'll be forced to take the 10 damage going down to 1 life. At this point, can Spoons even get back into the game? Well, no, not really. Off the top of my head, there isn't anything in Orzhov Power that will be able to stop the board presence that Hoggfard currently has. Spoons will draw into a Plains, and you can tell he doesn't like what he sees. He's tapping down both a Plains and a Swamp, and will deal a split card, Profit and Loss. He's specifically playing the Profit side of the card, which gives his creatures +1/+1 until end of turn. And this is essentially suicide, as Ruik's passive ability will trigger, dealing 6 damage to Spoons' life total. Hoggfard will clearly point out the consequences of his actions, and this will bring Spoons' life total to -5, sealing his fate. And that's going to be GG, children. It appears we have some kind of beginner's curse happening here. Every time we have a new contender, they seem to lose their first match. I'm not sure if it's nerves or just a coincidence, but it seems to be a common theme with our Magic games. In any case, Spoons has a lot of work to do before he steps into the ring with Hoggfard again. His first mistake was discarding a decent starting hand to mulligan into a slightly worse hand. His first draw of 7 had 3 swamps but no plains, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially if the majority of your starting cards are attuned to black mana. He did manage to pull a Sin Collector, and as sexy as this card is, it's not worth being your only early game creature in hand, especially if your deck's entire gimmick is based around creatures with Extort. He was way too aggressive with his Sin Collector. It's essentially a sorcery card that can chump block, and that's how I should have utilized it. Hoggfard baited Spoons in with what looked to be a free 2 damage and then quickly punished him for 7. Spoons was also holding onto a lot of cards that should have been played earlier. While nothing too game-changing, he could have potentially bluffed Hoggfard into playing more cautiously with cards like Loss and Profit, as well as Crypt Incursion. But I have to give credit to Hoggfard. He played a solid game and had a great succession of draws that led to a sizable victory. Even if Spoons kept his first hand, the firepower that Hoggfard had would have been extremely hard to deal with. He had an awesome series of land draws that allowed him to mobilize his holographic Ruik, shutting down any spell-based plays that Spoons had. And if we're talking about creature-on-creature combat, Gruul Siege will win hands down every time. Well, if you guys enjoyed this Magic the Gathering commentary, please comment and subscribe. We'd love to hear your opinions on what you liked and how we can improve our videos. On a side note, while we have a ton of Magic videos coming your way, we do have some other projects in the works. We've mentioned it before in our previous videos, and it relates to Super Smash Bros. 64. Smash is something that we really enjoy playing, and we want you along for the ride. Anyway, if you like this video, check out our other videos in the description or annotations. And if you enjoy playing Magic, check out Friday Night Magic at your local comic book store. It's a whimsical experience for your entire family. This is Curtis, signing out until next time. Man, I'm hungry. It's past my bedtime.